If you're someone who feels like you always have to be on, always holding things together, always planning, always thinking 3 steps ahead, this episode is for you. What if the control that you're clinging onto isn't actually keeping you safe anymore, but keeping you exhausted? Today, we're talking about why letting go of control feels so scary, how your body learned it for survival, and why surrender, especially in your faith, might be the exact thing that finally brings you peace. Let's dive right into it. Hello, friends, and welcome back to my channel here at True Reality Life, where we talk about the true realities of the life around us, beautiful, ugly, and everything in between. My name is Amber, the host for this mental health podcast, and I'm so grateful for you to be joining me here today. So, if you've been listening to the last few episodes on perfectionism and consistency, this topic today is a perfect continuation of just that. Today, we're talking about control, how it shows up in our daily lives, why it feels so hard to release, and how learning to let go can bring peace and relief instead of chaos. So, at the beginning of this new year, we touched on the topic of consistency and how to stay consistent and keep up with your habits. Now, there's a healthy form of consistency as long as it's not too rigid. If you're too hard on yourself to stay consistent, it can be very harmful, but that's why we discussed in past episodes to allow your goals and expectations to be flexible. That then moved us on to the topic of perfectionism, the idea that we have to control our situation and show up perfectly in order to determine the outcome, for people to accept us, for us to feel like we're good enough, anything like that. If you would like to learn more about perfectionism, feel free to go back and watch that episode first or continue and watch it right after this one. But they both tie so closely into having control over our lives, whether that's determining the outcomes based on how we show up or determining the predictability of our lives by staying consistent in our roles every day. But I want you to recognize that control is not a personality flaw. It's not a character flaw. It's literally your body in survival mode. It's a learned survival response to past experiences. At one point or another in your life, you've probably experienced some sort of trauma that made you feel like you weren't safe relying on other people. That led you to take control of your own life in order to survive, whether that was physically or mentally or emotionally. But you having to rely on yourself constantly, 24/7 around the clock, is exhausting, and it's probably leading you to burnout. I know for me, I have several areas of my life, whether that's motherhood or my business ventures or my full time job as a nurse. There are so many areas that I try to maintain control, and I am getting burnt out, and I'm learning these lessons right along with you. So, as you listen here today, I want you to notice what areas of your life are coming up that you feel like you need to let go of control just a little bit to fully enjoy and be present in these moments. So let's start off with talking about our body's need to survive. What is your body doing and why is it responding the way that it is to maintain control in unpredictable situations? Our nervous systems were hardwired for survival, not to maintain peace. Yes, there are times our body tries to block out things to give us peace, to try to give us peace, but it's not true and genuine peace. It's for protection and for our safety. This is usually to predict danger, to avoid pain, and to stay alert so that we can avoid anything that could potentially be a threat. So, even though we're not in previous times where we were literally fighting for our lives constantly, our bodies are still responding like we're in survival mode based off of experiences that we've had in our past. This need to maintain control is commonly found in people who have experienced trauma, chronic stress, and emotional unpredictability growing up. Your nervous system protecting you is often an automatic response now. That even though you're not in a threatening situation, your body is responding constantly as if it is, because in the past, you could not rely on the people that were in your life for your safety. You could only rely on yourself, which meant you have to constantly stay in control in order to determine your safety. But at what cost? So today, I want you to think about, where in your life are you holding on to control out of habit and not necessity? We get comfortable doing the same things that we've done since childhood that we can rely on, that are safe and feel safe and comforting, but they may not be serving us anymore. It may just be exhausting us. For me, this is where my relationship with God becomes extremely grounding. Because when control is rooted in fear, faith invites us to lean into trust and overall peace. We have to realize that God already has the full picture for us. He has already written the story that we are now trying to control. It's like trying to rewrite a book that has already been written. Surrendering control is not giving up. It's an active choice to let God lead. It's not weakness, but strength in recognizing what we are not meant to carry, to let go of burdens that are not ours. I want you to think about for a second, if you're a parent, would you let your child take control over everything? Would you let them take control of your car at 5 years old? Probably not. Yes, there are life lessons to be learned by allowing independence as children grow older, but you're not going to give them complete control over their own life if it's their safety that's in question. That's exactly what God is doing for us. We are the children of God, and we're sitting here trying to be the stubborn little kids that we know our toddlers to be, that I can do it myself, I don't need help. And you just look at them and you say, but it would be so much easier if you just let me help you. They're exhausting their little selves trying to be independent when they have somebody there that's willing to do the work for them, that's willing to teach them and guide them. And that's what God is for us. No matter how grown we get, we are always the children of God. And we have to recognize that and allow Him to teach and guide us the way He intended us to do. That He is the ultimate wisdom, He knows all things. So we are just being stubborn to hold on to that control. So I want you to think about, what is one thing in your life right now that you feel like you could surrender completely to God? And if you're comfortable, feel free to say it out loud or even write it down. So, what does surrender look like? It means letting go of timelines, stop holding on to exact schedules of everything. Recognize that God has a plan and it's in His timing that His plan will follow through. You have to let God lead in the decision making. If you don't have the answers or you can't decide what's the better option, leave it to God. Ask Him directly, God, what is meant for me? What do you intend for me? And if things don't go your way, trusting that it's for a reason, trust in the delay of things. If there's traffic, recognize maybe this is keeping me from something I'm not meant to be in. Maybe this could be protecting me. Maybe it's exposing to me to something that will get me to the next step in my journey. There is a purpose for every single thing that happens in your life, and only God knows that purpose. So you have to accept the redirection that God is trying to place in your life and accept that it's for your better good. You may not see it in the moment, but if you let go of control and completely surrender to Him, you will recognize that he is doing it out of love. So let's take a step back. Yes, we've talked about how control might have served you at one point in your life, where you might not have felt like your environment was a safe place to let go of control. Control in certain situations can be very beneficial. But what are some signs that control is hurting your mental health? Always feeling on, where you can't relax. Feeling guilty when you do finally rest. Difficulty delegating or trusting others. I know a common thing for me is I'll just do it myself. I'm really bad about that. Anxiety when plans change, especially if you already had expectations and plans in place, and then that all changes. And lastly, feeling responsible for other people's emotions, like you did something to upset somebody else, instead of letting them be responsible for their own feelings and why they responded that way to something you said or did. Which of these feels most familiar to you? Or maybe it's all of them. The overall concept here is that control becomes a problem when rest feels unsafe. Rest should be a normal part of the human experience. And if you feel unsafe to rest, this is something that I've battled with, but I want to give you full permission. You are allowed to take breaks from being on all of the time. You are allowed and are supposed to take breaks. You do not have to be doing something productive all of the time. Rest is being productive too. You have to refill your tank. You cannot function from an empty cup. Just like if you're driving a car, getting gas is a part of the journey. Filling up your gas tank is all a part of the journey of getting you from point A to point B. You have to include rest periods. So, something I've had to do is actually start scheduling myself to have rest periods and forcing myself to rest and relax and do nothing. I have to tell myself to just exist with myself. Like, if you would prioritize hanging out with a friend, catching up with somebody, a family, friend, you're doing that with yourself. You're getting to know yourself. You're reconnecting with yourself by doing nothing. My issue with this is everybody would always tell me self care this and self care that. I said, okay, self care, cool. I'm going to take baths and work on my podcast while I'm in the bath. I'm going to read self help books. I'm going to do yoga so that I can meditate and stretch at the same time, get more flexible, build my muscles and stability. I'm going to journal and learn new vocabulary, do self affirmations, do all of these things to care for myself. But they're all still checklists. It's all still doing something and feeling productive by taking care of myself. None of that included actual rest. So I was so confused why I was still feeling burnt out even though I was reinvesting in myself. That's a whole different that's a whole different challenge right there. That's a whole different checklist. Because yes, that's important to me to actively learn and grow, but I also can't learn and grow if there's no fuel in the tank. Mental health is not about just doing more of the right things like I thought. Doing reading the self-help books, journaling all of the things, following all the prompts, watching all the podcasts. That's not healing and restorative. That's still a stress of what you're not doing right or what you could be doing better at. You need to make time to just exist. Constantly being alert and on edge is keeping your nervous system activated all of the time. If you're anything like me, this means you have issues sleeping, means you have issues relaxing, anything related to rest. Because your nervous system is constantly activated, it's constantly on. How can you relax if your nervous system is saying, hey, if you relax, you let go of control, we need to stay in control? You're burning out. You're running on fumes. And something I also had to understand is you do not earn rest by being more productive. I would always say, well, whenever I'm done with XYZ, then I can rest. But by the time I'm halfway through X, Y, and Z, I'm exhausted physically and I don't even want to. I just want to sleep. And that's not active rest. That's not intentional rest. That's just sleep. Yes, it's physically and literally rest, but that's not resting your mental health, your emotional health, anything like that. So, what exactly does letting go of control look like in your daily life? It means letting other people make decisions sometimes, whether that's what restaurant you go to, what movie you watch. I know I'm really bad about saying I don't know because I don't know how, I'm very indecisive. But then I also deep down have a preference, and us women are very guilty of this. Deep down, you have a preference. So whenever somebody else says, oh, let's do this, we're like, oh, I don't really feel for that. So you don't know what you want, but you know what you don't want. But sometimes it's about letting somebody else make the decision and just going with it. It's about not correcting every detail, letting something be imperfect. This is where perfectionism comes into play. Learning to accept good enough and leaving it like that. Intentionally leaving something unfinished and letting it be okay. Going to bed without the dishes being done or the house being cleaned or the journaling being journaled. Taking a day off without explaining yourself, whether that's from work or just taking a spa day or resting, even if it's for an hour, with no explanation, just to be with yourself, just to intentionally rest. Ooh, and this is a big one. Allowing emotions to pass without having to fix them immediately. Getting angry over something and not holding on to it, not letting it ruin the rest of your day, but allowing those emotions to pass and then coming back to it. Why did that affect me so much? Why did I get so angry? Stop trying to have control and knowing all of the answers right now. And I just want to clarify something. Letting go of control does not mean being careless. It means being intentional about where your energy is going. I want you to choose one small moment in the next day or two to loosen your grip and just notice how your body responds. And at first, that may look like anxiety, where your hands get sweaty, you tighten up, things like that, because it is very scary. Your body's trying to stay in control. No, this is unsafe. This is unsafe. Don't let go of control. But telling yourself, I am safe, and allowing yourself to just let go of a little bit of control at a time. And eventually, it will get easier and you will be able to relax and it will bring you peace. Now, I don't want to say that you can relinquish control in every situation, in any environment. So I do want to spend a little time discussing how to identify environments that are safe to let go of control in. So just some questions to ask yourself. Am I physically safe? That's in the most literal sense as it gets. Are you in the middle of a street or not? Am I emotionally respected here? And sometimes that may require being completely alone, that there's not anybody in your life that you necessarily feel like respects you emotionally to fully open up around. Do I have boundaries? Am I aware of these boundaries? What are they? Put names to them. And am I willing to enforce these boundaries if they're crossed? And last but not least, can I leave if I need to? Do not by any means feel pressured to let go of control in an environment where you do not feel safe, where it is chaotic or unpredictable, or some sort of high risk situation. This can be even a new or unstable relationship or any time of uncertainty. Especially as you're getting into the practice of letting go of control, you want to feel extremely safe with the environment around you. Healing isn't losing discernment, it's learning when and where control is no longer needed. Being intentional with what you're controlling and when you can choose to have peace and let go of that control. So, what are the benefits of letting go of control? Say you've determined you're in a safe environment, you feel ready. What are the benefits of this? With time, you'll have reduced anxiety. Like I mentioned, it may not be initially because your body is trying to fight to stay in control of what feels safe, but over time, your anxiety will decrease dramatically. You'll have less mental exhaustion because you're allowing yourself to rest and not always be on all of the time. Your relationships will improve because you'll be more rested and more able to respond appropriately or more energetically. You'll be more pleasant to be around. You'll want to be around people because you won't be so socially exhausted all of the time. You'll have overall more joy and feel more present in the moment of your life. You'll develop a stronger trust in yourself of knowing that you know when to let go of control or trust in yourself or God if that's your cup of tea. And overall, your nervous system will be calm. And that means it will be more readily available if you are in a situation where you have to maintain control and be on alert. You'll have a lot more energy to be able to show up better in those moments. You have to realize that when you learn to let go of control, you are allowing space for connection, not just with others, but with yourself. You can learn to reconnect with yourself and love yourself, which is something I want to talk about in our next episode. But it's such a beautiful thing to learn to love yourself. You are the only one on this planet that is like you. And you are so busy trying to keep control of everything around you in this crazy, chaotic world that you don't even know who you are. Or maybe you're trying to control who you are and what that looks like, but you're not allowing yourself to just exist and experience yourself fully stress free, no worries, just the fun, loving, beautiful person that I know you are. So let's go through step by step how you can practice letting go of control. Step one is to just notice when you feel like you're trying to keep control. I want you to ask yourself, what am I trying to control right now and why? Step two, name the fear. What am I so afraid of happening if I let go of control? Is it loss, rejection, disappointment, uncertainty? What does that look like for you? I want you to start small. So, step three, choosing a small moment to let go of a little bit of control. And this may be your kids are in bed, your husband's watching TV, whatever, and you're just letting it be. You're not trying to control what he's doing, you're not trying to be productive, you're just choosing to rest, choosing not to worry about anything, choosing to let go of control. And then eventually you can build up to some bigger things in life that might be all consuming. But for now, start small. Step four, In the midst of this, you're going to need to regulate your body. Your body's going to respond with a little bit of anxiety because it wants to feel safe, and letting go of control does not feel safe. So start with some deep breaths, stay grounded, remind yourself, I am safe right now. I am safe. It is okay to let go of control right now. And sometimes that might look like prayer and sitting in prayer or meditation. Whatever it is for you that keeps you grounded and keeps you connected to yourself and your body. Step 5, the hardest point in the process. Replace control with trust. I say this is the hardest because oftentimes the control was a response to lack of trust, whether with ourselves or with other people that were unreliable. So, this is the point where we have to try to rebuild that trust. Trust that no matter what happens, you will be there for yourself. You've gotten through 100% of your bad days already. You will continue to show up for yourself. You will continue to exist if you let go of a little bit of control in the safe environment. I'm not saying to go put yourself in danger and say, oh, I trust it. But no, learning to trust yourself. And if you do have a relationship with God, learning to trust in God, that no matter how weak you feel, He will show up for you. No matter how far you fall, He will catch you. It's this analogy that I love too, of learning to trust yourself like a bird on a branch. Imagine a bird sitting on a branch. They can sit there confidently. They're not thinking about if the branch is going to break, because they know if that branch breaks, they are capable of flying to catch themselves. That they will catch themselves if they fall. You have to learn to trust yourself, that you will be there no matter which situation you face. You also have to trust that discomfort does not always mean danger. Your body is going to respond like you were in danger, but like we've already said, when we're practicing this, we're ensuring that our environment is physically safe. We're making sure there are no unstable people around us to where we can truly feel safe, but it will still feel uncomfortable because our body is not used to it. Our body is wanting to maintain safety, and it views losing control as a threat to that safety. But we are no longer in survival mode. You can feel safe, and discomfort does not mean danger. And last but not least, you just have to trust in the process. It takes practice like anything else in life. It takes practice. And eventually, if you practice enough, you'll get your peace. You'll get your relaxation where you're not constantly on edge, where you're not at the verge of burnout every 5 seconds. So I just want to finish off by saying letting go of control is not giving up. It's not a sign of weakness. It's about trusting that you no longer have to survive the way that you once did. It's about being intentional of the times and places that you take control versus let go of control. I'd love to hear from you. What is one area of your life that you plan on letting go of control? Feel free to comment your story down below or simply type the word surrender to show that this video helped you in some way. And be sure to share this episode with somebody else who it might help. Your support is what allows this podcast to reach the audience that it needs to help the most people possible. Thank you guys so much for being here. I love you so much, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye.